2 eggs. Actually, let's just go ahead and start class, and that'll kind of get it easy. So, hello and welcome. My name is Andrew Garrett. I'm an executive chef and sauce maker out here in Portland, Oregon. Really excited to have you all here. This is my first official Zoom classroom experience. And so kind of bear with me as I use my hands a lot. I stutter through some of the things I'm trying to say, and we're all going to get through this. We're going to make some great tuna cakes and have a lot of fun. So first things first, our ingredients. So we should all have 2 eggs, 2 teaspoons of lemon juice, just about 10 tablespoons of Italian breadcrumbs. I'm using gluten-free unseasoned breadcrumbs, which is totally fine. If you're just using plain breadcrumbs, that's all you had, no problem at all. We're gonna be a diced yellow onion, sea salt, ground black pepper, our tuna. I've already taken mine out of the pack and drained off the liquid. In oil or in water is totally fine. There's no right or wrong for that. The other thing that I want to mention about this recipe in particular is it's actually really universal across the board. So if you're using crab or smoked salmon, either of those work really well also. And then I'm also going to be using my sauce here, Northwest Elixirs, to kind of spice it up a little bit. And so hopefully we all have everything and we are ready to rock and roll. So we'll do an official introduction. My name is Chef Andrew Garrett. I guess that's the 3rd or 4th time that I've said that now, so we should be pretty dialed in. I'm out here in Portland, Oregon, and we're putting on these classes through CocuSocial, which is a awesome opportunity. We are supposed to be doing these all in person and live, but adapting to the current situation that we're all in. They wanted to bring these classes to you at home to give you an opportunity to kind of work through with a professional chef and learn some stuff. This is a great little recipe. It's something that I've been making for years, and it's simple. You should have most of the things around, and it's also really easy to substitute in and out different ingredients for it. So are we all ready to kind of jump right on in and start doing this? Everybody have all their ingredients ready to go? Kalena, I'm using the original. This is the original sauce that we're using. Yes, canned tuna is totally fine. I will show you the brand that I'm using. This is Seafair Pacific. I love these guys. They're out here in the Pacific Northwest. It's a really good brand. They work with sustainable, they work around a sustainability model, working with a lot of local fishermen, and it's almost a CSA style collaborative effort through all, and it's a great product. All right, so are we ready to go? Let's do this. So first things first, we're gonna take our eggs, we're gonna toss those into our side bowl here. Using a whisk, we're gonna kind of beat them up a little bit, kind of get them well to do. One little trick that something you don't necessarily intuitively do when you pick up a wire whisk is hold it like a pencil. So as you can see where my fingers are, it's like I'm holding a pencil instead of like holding it across the way and trying to whisk like this. Is if you hold it kind of like a pencil, it gives you a lot more flexibility in what you're doing, and so it's just a real quick whip. Next thing is we're gonna add in our breadcrumbs and our lemon juice to our egg mixture. And again, just kind of like giving that a nice stir, kind of almost making it like a little paste. We get that all nice and combined in there. At this point, we can take that mixture and we're gonna pour it into our bowl with the tuna. And at this point, if you have rubber gloves, plastic gloves that you'd like to use, please toss them on now. I don't mind working with my hands, so I'm gonna get in there and do that. We're gonna add our cheese. So I'm using a cojita cheese instead of Parmesan cheese. one thing about recipes is they're basically a guide. And so just because a recipe says it has to have this one thing doesn't mean that it's the absolute end all be all. For me, a recipe is simply a guide to get us where we're going. We'll toss in our salt. Get that black pepper in there. Our onions. And if you're using any kind of Northwest Elixirs or any other little flavoring sauce, be it Tabasco, Crystal, anything like that, you could toss those guys right in there as well. Now, the fun part, we get to play with our food, as I like to say. So getting in there and just kind of mushing everything around, breaking up the tuna into smaller bits. It kind of like start to fall apart a little bit as we get in there and really start going. I really love the way this stuff smells. It's a weird thing. I don't know why, but I've always really enjoyed the smell of canned tuna. But when you mix it in there with those onions and the spices and the sauce, it really starts to like brighten up. So making sure that like any kind of like big chunks we're getting, break them up a little bit and let them kind of fall in and apart. It should get to the point where it's just like, as you kind of like, you can make a ball out of it. And you kind of like hold it in your hand and it'll be all combined. Make sure that everything is well mixed. You don't want to have like, you know, any big chunks or areas, because what will happen is if it's not mixed in there well, it'll all kind of fall apart when you get into the pan. So now that we have those guys made, or mixed, not made, we have it all mixed up there together. I'm gonna give my hands a quick wash here. Now I'm going to use just a glass casserole for holding these guys while we're cooking. So our mix should be kind of crumbly, but again, like once you kind of take it in your hand, you kind of squeeze it together, moisture shouldn't like leak out of it, but it should hold a nice ball shape, kind of like this. Now, depending on how many people you're serving, if this is just for you, or if you want to have them all over, or if you want to have them again later on, what we're going to do is we're going to cook two of these in two different ways. So one of them we're going to put in the oven, and the other one we're going to do on the stove top. And so now the forming of our crab cakes. So the recipe says just about a 1 ounce size. For me, that's just about here, fits just in the palm of my hand. If you want to make like a tuna cake burger, like a salmon burger or a crab burger, you could definitely make a larger size cake. The fun is now putting these all together. So we take our mix of tuna, get that, kind of like give it a good press down, and in the ball of your hand here, so just right in the palm, kind of like press it together, and now you can make a little circle, kind of bring it together, squeezing it, a little bit of pressure, so you have kind of a roughly shaped ball. Now we'll kind of push down on it, keeping it right in the center of your palm, and a lot of times it'll kind of crack on the edge like that. To fix that, take your middle finger and your thumb and kind of like make like a C, and then just kind of squeeze it around the sides as you're going, and that'll give it that nice tall cake shape. Now, if you want to have it like a nice tall one, you could also flatten them out. They have rounder edges, so you can kind of see how round they are. And you can do it that way as well. The key is to have kind of a flat surface at top. I like the more square shape opposed to flat and round. And now we're just going to keep repeating that method until we have all of our cakes set up. How's everybody doing so far? Where are we all at? Anybody have any questions so far? Probably. I'm really bad at checking the text box.
Did you put
all right.
Yet? Hi, it's Angela. Did you
yes.
put in yet? The onions?
Yes, the onions. Everything should be.
Oh,
Yeah, everything
okay.
should be in.
Everything's
To
in.
the bowl,
Okay.
and yeah, and then go ahead and mix those all together.
How hot should the oven be? If we're
I do mine at 350.
okay.
All right, how's everybody else doing on this? Tilt it down a little bit. Yes, sorry. There we go. A little bit more. There we are. You get just the bottom of my face. So, does everybody have all their ingredients are kind of like in the process now? If you can, let me know how these are turning out, and is everything holding up okay? All those shapes kind of coming together. This should make just about 12 crab cakes total. If you're doing the 1 to 1.5 ounce size. If you have cats, they're probably going crazy right now because they can smell the tuna. Mine are kind of looking at me like, are we getting a treat? This recipe, so I started doing this years ago just on fishing trips down in southern Baja Peninsula with some friends of mine. We'd go down and we'd fish in a little town called La Paz in October, November when the tuna was running. And you go down there, you just catch so many fish. And one of the things we would do is we'd come back in, we'd poach the tuna in olive oil, and we'd just make stuff like this right off the boat, sitting there, little propane burners on the docks. This is another one of those recipes too, where if you wanted to add more to it, you definitely can. There's nothing to say that you can't add more paprika, or you want to add garlic, you want to add roasted garlic, you toss that in there, more chili flakes. If you're a real spicy fan, Tabasco is a really good complement to this. Of course, my sauces are a really good complement to this. We keep going, making these guys. A little bit more about me. You probably want to know all you possibly can. I grew up in a small town in Northern California. It's called Sonoma. It's also known as the wine country. I grew up down there and worked in restaurants throughout high school, summer break. I grew up on a small farm where we grew stone fruit as well as berries. And I also was in FA and 4-H. I used to raise hogs and steer. And so eating locally is something that I just kind of grew up knowing, especially growing up in a place like Sonoma. It's really easy to have those resources available to you. I've been here in Portland for just about 12 years now. I've worked at many different restaurants, and now I'm actually running my own catering business as well as a small restaurant consulting firm. And then I do also work with CocuSocial on in-person classes. So once everything kind of gets back to the new normal, we will be doing live in-person classes over here at Zoigle House. It's a local brewery here in Portland. They've got a great, big, beautiful space. And the first class we'll be doing over there is in July, and we'll be doing a risotto class. You can find more information about those classes and other classes that are coming up possibly in your cities via CocuSocial.com. If you're not following us on Instagram yet, please check us out on Instagram. It's how I'm also going to know how your cakes are turning out. I want to see you all post them and tag CocuSocial so we can share the love and see more of what we have going on. Because I know for a fact there are a lot of really talented chefs that are doing these classes. How's everybody's cakes coming along? Are they starting to come together, looking pretty good? Mary, yes, absolutely. You can leave the onion out. If it's just onion that you're not a fan of, leave it out completely. You can also use shallots. I'm a big fan of shallots myself. They add a little bit more sweetness and not so tough or not so acidic in flavor. Crushed up saltines. Yeah, that's a great sub. I love using saltines in most things that need breadcrumbs. It's kind of along the lines of using cornflakes. I'm the same way. Saltines actually make a really good crust for fried fish. If you haven't tried that before, it's awesome. Yeah, ranch flavored croutons. Yes, that's awesome. I like that. Again, like this is one of those recipes where it's let's get everything out of the pantry and toss it in. It's not necessarily a kitchen sink recipe, but a pantry recipe. So now I've got all my cakes pattied up here. Oh man, my fingers have too much tuna on them to use the phone. There we go. So now you get an idea. I wound up with 10. So I'm a little bit more than an ounce and a half on those. I'm gonna wash my hands here. And then in just a second, we're gonna take a little trip across the kitchen and get closer to our saute pan so you can actually see what I'm talking about when we're putting them on. So for those of us that are going into the oven with these guys, we want to do sheet pan. I don't have any of my small sheet pans. We have a smaller sheet pan. You can totally use that. We're going to hit it with just a little bit of olive oil. I use olive oil for most of my cooking. I also use a lot of coconut oil and avocado oil, mostly because they all have really high smoke points. So you take your olive oil, kind of spread it across your pan, then take your cakes, toss them on there. I'm going to do 2 in the oven, and then we're going to slide those right on in. I put them down in the bottom rack because it cooks a little bit hotter. If you have a convection oven, then you can definitely put it in the middle rack or the top rack and hit it on convection at 350 degrees. Should be about 10 to 15 minutes until those guys are good to go. Now for our journey across the kitchen. Everybody kind of hold on here. I hope no one gets car sick easily. We're going to take a small trip around. I'm going to set you all up above my stove. All right. That should be pretty close to what we want to do. There we go. All right. Yeah, perfect. So I'm using a non-stick pan for this today. I'm going to kick this up to a high temperature. I typically don't measure my oils and stuff when I'm putting them in. But if it is something that you are watching how much fat you're intaking, no problem at all. Put it on there. About 1 tablespoon is going to do the trick for what we're up to. Now for me, because it's just my fiance and I right now in the apartment, I'm only going to do 2 of these guys in the pan and 2 of them in the oven because that's going to make a nice little lunch for us later today. As our pan kind of heats up, getting that olive oil all around. Since we have so many of these guys, one thing I really like about this recipe in particular is how well they freeze. So I'm going to take the rest of these that we aren't cooking today. I'm going to put them in my Ziploc bag. I'm going to freeze them for a later date. How's everybody coming along on making their cakes? How are they looking? Ooh, cheddar flavored goldfish? I could definitely see where that would be going really well. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the cheddar blasted goldfish. And little professional hack, if you dip that in hummus, I eat them. I get made fun of a lot because I just eat those goldfish straight with hummus. And it's delicious. All right. I'm working off a glass cooktop here, kind of spreading the olive oil all around the pan, getting it ready. A lot of times, sometimes folks don't use a high enough heat when they start cooking something. They kind of like let it get a little bit warm and they toss it in there. We want to let this pan get to the point where it's just starting to smoke a little bit, and then we'll turn the temperature down. What happens there is it puts a really nice caramelization on the outside of the crab cake. If you're not familiar with the term, it's called the Maillard effect. And what it is the caramelization of the proteins on the outside. If you're using a stainless steel pan with a little bit of oil, getting to that smoke point will actually make it non-stick. So as you can see, I've got a nice flat surface on both sides of the cake. You can tell we're just about there. You don't want to get it too hot to the point where you're going to start a fire when you toss these guys in there. I also wound up with a little tiny baby crab cake, so I got a little one. Whew. I'm using this brand of California olive oil. It's just your typical. I really like Trader Joe's olive oil. They've got a really nice one. I don't use pumice. Pumice oil to me is a little bit bitter. I like to use an extra virgin, so it's a little bit fresher press. It also has a little bit higher smoke point. However, these guys are absolutely delicious with coconut oil. Now, we're just about at that smoke. I don't know if you guys can see some of the smoke coming off of that, but we're there now. And so we're gonna set our crab cakes in. Another tip that I have, when you're putting anything into a pan that has like hot oil in it, you wanna drop it away from you. So like if we were putting a chicken breast in, we'd lay it down bottom in to the top. That way it pushes any kind of oil away. So we're gonna drop these guys in. Ooh, that sounds so nice. It's almost like the sound of like bacon when you can hear bacon sizzling in the pan. It like immediately starts getting your palate to the point where you're kind of salivating a little bit. So you see those guys are moving around really nicely in there. I'm gonna turn my heat down to about a medium. I'm gonna wash my hands one more time here. It's funny, I'm more aware now than ever with washing my hands. And I mean, I've always been really diligent about washing them, but now it seems like every single thing I do, everything I touch, I hit it one or two more times. So now you got those guys going. We've got our heat turned down to medium. Still a little bit of smoke coming off the top of the pan. You don't want it to be to the point where it's like pluming smoke or you have fire coming off, but you can kind of see around the edges of these guys that they're starting to get nice and brown there at the bottom, which is exactly where we want them to go. I'm really, I can't just let things sit still in a pan. I have a real tendency to just kind of like want to touch them and slide them around and shake the pan. I don't know why I do that. It's just kind of my one of my things. Again, another pro tip, hold a spatula like you're holding a pencil. So middle finger down, or like, pinch it, and then that middle finger, just like you're gonna write something out, gives you a lot more flexibility. So you're using it as kind of a wrist, opposed to like holding it away from you or like trying to scoop things. It creates a lot more flexibility with what you're doing. So now these guys are super, super quick to cook. So once you got one side nice and golden, we're gonna give them a flip. Oh, these look so good. Yeah, awesome. I was really nervous that I would really mess up this part in particular with this class. As you can see, like a nice even color along the top here, and still they slide kind of back and forth. So now we're in a spot where you can let those guys kind of hang out. You can even turn the heat down to one more level of low. If you're working on a glass cooktop or an electric cooktop like I am, I have it at about 4 right now. The reason why is we're gonna let these guys cook the rest of the way through. One thing in my chef world is it's always important to have the first side very, very pretty, and then the next side is gonna be just as pretty, but in case it does get messed up a little bit, it's kind of hidden. Dennis, yes. As far as freezing them, you want to freeze them while they're still raw. The reason why is because as they freeze, any kind of water that's in there, it's going to freeze it inside, and those molecules, when they defrost, are going to kind of fall apart. So you'll want to reform them after you pull them out of the freezer. If you put them in there when they're already cooked, unless you're putting them in with, if you have a vacuum seal pack or a vacuum sealer, you can definitely cook them, vacuum seal them, put them in the freezer, and that'll be good. But if you cook them and then freeze them, they're going to be really mushy when they come out. Flipping the ones in the oven, Amy, no. I leave them in there on one side and kind of just let them go as they are. They're going to cook pretty much evenly throughout the entire thing. The one thing about doing them in the oven is you aren't going to get necessarily a really nice golden brown like we have here with the stovetop version. Nope, that's my cat Gunner. He's coming to see what's happening. He definitely smells these cakes. So again, I have a tendency to really touch everything, make sure it's all going well. So now we have about 5 minutes of letting those guys finish on the stovetop, and then they're going to be ready for lunch. All right, how's everybody's pans coming along? How are they looking in there? Ah, yes, that is. Ooh, yes, remoulade sauce. So that's one thing too. Is in these shorter classes, we didn't really have a whole lot of time to get into making the full-on plating, or some of the suggested things that I paired these guys with. I like to do these with, as Clinton just pointed out, a rocket salad, so arugula salad with this is a really simple olive oil and balsamic vinegar, salt, and pepper, and throw them there. I made a mango salsa that I like to do these with because it's got that really nice acidity to it that really kind of brings out the earthiness of the tuna itself, especially some of these ones that are done in oil. Yeah, you can absolutely bake these on parchment paper as well, or aluminum foil. Either way, I don't necessarily like to use a lot of aluminum foil, and what I'm doing is I have this really strange fear of things leaching into whatever I'm cooking. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm not a scientist. So now that we have these guys going, ready to pop them off. As you can see, we kind of got lucky. We have a really nice like golden on the outside, gold on the inside. It makes for a really nice plate when you can look at it from this one. You get that nice golden top and you get that thick kind of like lightly colored center. It's one of those things where it looks really pretty onto a plate. So hold on with me. We're going to go back to our other station, traveling around the kitchen, around the house. And then we are back here, my friends. Hold on. We're almost there. Boom. All right. So while I let those guys kind of cool down, I'll show you. I pack these guys raw in the Ziploc bag. I try to get as much of the air out as possible. Seal them up. And then if you're like me and you freeze a lot of food and you often forget what they are or what things are, I like to put a date and a name. Otherwise, I will go back in there in a week and I will forget what it is that I made, when I made it, and it's kind of lost for the ages. I like to try to use these things within a week of being in the freezer. So, you know, otherwise I get really bad frostbite just because there is a good amount of moisture in them. Now, our oven guys should be there as well. And they are. So with the oven cakes, you can see we don't get that nice like sear on the top, but the bottom, we're still gonna have that nice golden brown. But again, cooked really nice and evenly. Again, because we're presenting these guys with just one side, I don't worry too much about like really flipping them in the oven to get the bottom side golden brown like this. Let's set these guys up. Now, simple plate. This is a spot where like if you had a nice green salad, even I've done this before with just roasted vegetables. Roasted fennel is really good with these guys. So we'll take them out, set them on. If you're doing this as kind of like a party appetizer or something to share, and you're not doing on top of a salad, some things that I use, I like Toadi's tartar sauce. You can also make your own remoulade. You can make any kind of sauce like that. I made this mango salsa. It's really simple. It's one mango, one red bell pepper, 2 jalapenos, and a bunch of cilantro with about two limes juiced. And I will put those on there. Again, another pro trick, every utensil is a pencil, right? So I hold everything like a pencil, especially when it comes like plating salsas or stuff like that. So, you know, we're gonna get a little bit of salsa on top of there. Place it right there on top. I really wish we had more time to do this salsa recipe for these as well, because it's absolutely wonderful. It's really nice. And there we go. So those are my 2 crab cakes. Both of those guys with a little bit of that mango salsa mango relish on top of there like that. And these are really good. They're nice, you know, handheld. They're sturdy. So they're a really nice little past party appetizer, or again, just having them at home with a salad, something like that. How's everybody else's coming out? Is everybody kind of in the same spot that I am? In the oven, they were just about 10 minutes. Yes, the oil is just for cooking, not in the cakes. Oh, Nicole on top of it, already eating one and super good. Awesome. I love that. Wow, I am way behind. This is so good. So how are they turning? Are they turning out pretty good? Is everybody really happy with that? Can y'all do me a favor, and are you able to turn on your videos and show us some of these cakes? Well, now that we're already eating them. So that's it. And again, I've got my, hi, oh, yeah, the cat smells the tuna. So we got these oven guys. And I'm gonna do these with a little bit of tartar sauce. Nice. Yeah, that looks good. I love it. Yeah, so they came out really well. Who else do we got? Anybody else? No? All right. This is too cool. It was recorded, and I believe we'll be able to get away that out there to you. And there's our oven bake with tartar sauce, and that's where I wound up. So
Your camera's off.
my camera is off. Yes, it is. Ah, those are my tricky fingers. So yeah, and then those are the oven bake with tartar sauce. So that is it. Those are delicious tuna cakes. Simple, easy, no fuss. A little bit of cleanup. I try not to use a whole lot of pans when I'm cooking. I try to do a minimal amount of cleaning. And then I also try to clean as I go, so I don't have a big mess to clean up afterwards. Because honestly, that's the part that I don't like the most. So thank you all very much for joining me today. Yeah, those turned out great. I love it. I'm so happy that this really worked out well. And then of course, you know, we've got a bunch of time now, and we can kind of chat through this. Any questions that anybody has about where we're at? We're just a short time amount.
I have a quick
yeah.
So I just took mine out of the oven, but they're mushy. Is that?
Oh, they're kind of mushy.
Yeah. Is it because the egg is not cooked yet? Because I don't want to eat it.
No. What is it? It's probably just that we didn't quite drain enough of the liquid off of the tuna, and so they're probably just a little bit soft. The egg should be just fine. But yeah, if it's like a mushy texture, it'll be more about like not having drained enough of the water or oil off.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and so again, my name is Andrew Garrett. I'm going to be teaching these classes through CocuSocial. If you're not following us on Instagram, please, before you get too destructive with destroying these guys, take a picture of them, post it on Instagram or Facebook, tag CocuSocial. You can tag me on there as well. Again, Chef Andrew Garrett. I'm going to be available for a lot of classes through the website as well as the larger groups. So as we start to post and put together more of the classes, you'll be able to sign up for those and find different things that we're going to do. There's a lot of really fun, exciting. I don't know about exciting. It's exciting for me because this is really a new world, but really cool different recipes that we're going to be working through. Again, my company, Northwest Elixirs, spicy cooking sauces. If you are into spicy things and you like to cook with a little bit of heat, I'm going to plug those in as much as I possibly can. Yeah, does anybody have any questions or any comments? Oh, also, if you have cable or Hulu, you can check me out on Supermarket Stakeout with Chef Alex Guancelli. So I don't know if you watch much Food Network. They also just released Chopped Season 22. I was on Season 22 of Chopped with a few other chefs on there as well. So you can kind of find me all around the internet. A quick Google search of Chef Andrew Garrett, and I pop up all over the place. Awesome. Yes. All right. So what I'm going to do now is, because I'm really bad at just like reading all the chat, I'm going to unmute everybody so that if you have any questions, please feel free to speak up and you can ask along. So
Can you repeat what was in the salsa?
yeah, so it's 1 mango, 1 red bell pepper, 2 jalapenos, 1 bunch of cilantro, and 2 limes juiced. And that's it. And then you just kind of like mix it all together and you get a really pretty colorful salad or relish / salsa.
Thank you. It looks good.
Yeah.
Do you have any other sauce recommendations if we don't have mango?
Yeah, so like I said, tartar sauce is really good. I like anything that has a lot of acidity to it for dishes like this. So just a regular pico de gallo. If you like spicy stuff, Crystal or Tabasco sauce are really good with it.
We have Crystal.
Yeah, Crystal's really. Crystal is my second favorite hot sauce, behind my own. So those are really good options.
I like it too.
Where are the 6 ramekins for plating?
No, the ramekins are for your mise en place. So I realize not everybody is a chef and has a collection of random ceramic dishes, but I try to, when I'm cooking anything, it drives my fiance nuts because I will have just all my dishes out with all of my ingredients all set up and ready to go, so that I'm not kind of fumbling around looking for things. So everything is ready. Just kind of get it going, get it in.
If you're doing
Makes it a little bit quicker.
Got it.
My Aunt Jean used to do it too.
All right, cool. Well, if we don't have any other questions or any other concerns, I'm going to let you all get going for the rest of your days, so you can get out there and enjoy. Hopefully your weather is a little bit better and you're able to maybe step out on the porch and enjoy some fresh air. Again, Chef Andrew Garrett, CocuSocial on Instagram, Facebook, and on the website www.CocuSocial.com. Check out all the classes that we have coming up. We're going to be doing a lot of different, a lot longer classes, so you'll be stuck with me for anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half.
Hey, Andrew. I was
Yes.
just wondering, where would, for someone like me who came in late, where could I find the link for a recorded version of this?
We will post a recorded version. Let me
need
let me
your-
figure that
Okay.
out. I think that.
Cut this off.
Oh yeah, we'll have it up on YouTube.
Awesome. Okay, thank you very much.
We will get that up and available on YouTube, so you can follow back along and kind of get an idea of everything.
I wonder.
Anybody else?
Like you were
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks, y'all. I really enjoyed doing this. Hopefully these turned out great, and I look forward to seeing you again in our next class. Thank you so much.
You rock.
Thank you. Very
This is
good.
Thanks,
amazing.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a great one.
Bye.
Look pretty official.
Okay, are we gonna get Daddy?
They have tuna in them. Doesn't tuna bother him?
But no, we was all
No, I
chatting.
had that thought too. I'm like, oh, shit.
They asked questions. You know how they always say, wait, I need to shut this down. Wait, I need to mute.